Here to give us some analysis and some basic overview of why this has happened is Louise Dalingwater from the Sorbonne Nouvelle, a senior lecturer there. Louise, thank you for being with us. Now, you and I originate from the same region of England, the northwest. Basically, that's the Liverpool-Manchester area,
That's right.
where the two major cities, Liverpool and Manchester, voted for Remain. Why do you think that happened?
Well, there is a lot of financial. The financial sector is very important in Manchester. Although London's obviously the major international financial centre of the world, there is an increasing number of financial institutions, financial companies in Manchester and in Liverpool. And they're two vibrant cities, very cosmopolitan cities. There are people moving back into the city. We've also got the BBC located in Manchester.
That was a relocation from London
that's
to
right,
Manchester
yes.
of many departments of the British Broadcasting
Exactly,
Corporation.
yes. So what we're looking here is very inter-regional differences. Not only Manchester, but there was also Trafford, that's where I come from, and Stockport, the South Manchester. So what we're looking at here is really, if you look at things more closely, inter-regional differences. Some of us wanted to remain in the European Union, and some obviously got caught up in the populist kind of media. There are too many immigrants. They're putting downward pressure on wages.
One of the big issues, of course, was the word immigration, what it meant, the fact that so many EU citizens were exploiting the possibility, taking advantage, not exploiting, taking advantage of the possibility to move to the UK, work, make their lives.
But which
many people think is fine, but others think, well, they're taking our jobs, which is, I think, one of these urban myths, isn't it?
Yeah, because a lot of jobs have been outsourced to not just, it's actually outsourced to East Asian countries. So it's not just this downward pressure from migrants coming in immigrating into the
That's
UK.
right, because if you ring your bank from the UK, you're often put through to a call centre in India.
Exactly.
And I find the service is great. I'm not complaining about that, but that's a fact. And some people are blaming Brussels for that. I think that's a bit unfair.
Exactly. And downward pressure on wages has come also because working in a very flexible labour market in the UK. That has created a lot of jobs, but low paid, low prospect jobs. And if we look at the interregional differences, we look at those interregions that voted to come out of the European Union. Blackpool, 67.5%, Stoke-on-Trent, which is in the West Midlands, almost 70%, Ashfield in the East Midlands, almost 70%, Barnsley, 68.3%, and then just Basildon in the South East, 68.6%. These are regions that actually suffer from a higher rate of unemployment, often crime rates are pretty high. They're really suffering. We don't see that in the national employment figures, unemployment figures, but we do in these inter-regions, and that's really important to point out. And they obviously were thinking that the problem was European citizens coming into the UK and taking the jobs. But obviously there have been other things. The jobs are just not there in those regions. And they blame Europe to some extent, because the structural funds from the European Union that should have helped some poorer regions or interregions rise, solve problems of unemployment, have failed them, and that's, I think, what these sub-regions feel about the situation.
Do you think there's a lack of awareness, though, amongst the ordinary voter, and that's a terrible thing to say, but I'm going to say that, about the benefits that the EU has given? And I'm thinking about the fact that Liverpool, my hometown, got something like £650 million worth of Objective 2 EU cash to do up its infrastructure, and it has built and rebuilt itself on the basis of that, and that's been made possible by the EU.
Yeah, and I think people are not aware of where the money comes from. It's been mixed in with regional policy as a whole, but what we must point out here, what's very important for the British population to know, is that a lot of money now coming into the region is thanks to these structural funds. It's an incredible amount, and particularly to those regions that are suffering.
And all that's going to stop.
Well, we don't know what's going to be negotiated. That's the question. There was an idea that regional policy will go on to a national basis. I mean, so structural funds, yeah. I mean, that is going to be something that will disappear, and it'll be left up to the government to solve these problems in the regions. So far, it's been the structural funds, the European Union funds, that have made up for the shortfall for the regions.
People have said Brussels don't listen. Certain politicians have exploited that to say Brussels don't listen. They've made political capital of that. And now it'll be a question of whether London will listen. And I suspect they might have the same problem. No, they're not. I need to stop you.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Louise Dalingwater from the Sorbonne Nouvelle. Can you bear with us for a second? I just need to bring in Marcus Carlson to talk more about the business scenario. Marcus, great to see you. Now, on looking in my research, preparing for this, I noticed that today's been, well, a howler on the stock markets, and I'm sure you can fill us in with more of the details about how
we have
things
indeed
have been affected.
seen a lot of turmoil in stock markets, on currency markets, commodities, you name it, essentially. Markets were clearly, before the result became known overnight, markets were clearly expecting a Remain vote. Bookies were saying that there was an 80% chance, more than 80% chance
80%.
that the Remain camp would gain the day or would win the day, and markets actually went along with that. So it was a shocker as we started getting the news through that the Leave campaign had won the day. We have seen stock markets falling. We are seeing the CAC 40, the DAX, down by around about 7 or 8%. The FTSE 100 in London as well has been losing steam, although we have actually seen stock markets claw back some of their previous losses. This, as we have seen central banks coming to the rescue, so to speak. We have had through statements from the Federal Reserve, I have it right here, and also from the European Central Bank. These central banks have stated that we are watching what's happening in stock markets and in financial markets in general. We are ready to step in with more liquidity if need be. That essentially means that they are ready to pump in more money into financial markets if need be. We have heard similar things from the Bank of England and its governor, Mark Carney. He has said that the BOE is ready to pump in as much as £250 billion into UK banks, because it is really financial companies and banks that have been at the forefront of the losses that we have seen in stock markets.
Can I put a question to you? The statement made earlier by Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England, is this the kind of thing that is going to kind of stabilise the situation, do you think?
Well, it certainly seems as if it has, because we did see a marked improvement after he came out to speak. Very unusual, really. He was addressing the press and he was addressing the nation. It's very unusual for the governor of the Bank of England to have to come out and do such a thing. And as I say, we've seen similar messages from the European Central Bank and from the Federal Reserve as well. And the Federal Reserve in particular said that it is working with other central banks around the world to make sure that, something worse won't come of this. At the same time as we're seeing these losses on stock markets, we are seeing investors flee to safety. We have seen investors go to the Japanese yen, for instance. The Japanese yen has been gaining in value in comparison to other currencies. We've also seen gold prices head higher. Gold is another one of those havens where investors turn in times of uncertainty, and we definitely have a lot of uncertainty. That is the word of the day, really, politically, financially, and economically.
Okay, Marcus, thank you, as ever, very much indeed. Marcus, of course, will provide analysis of the whole situation ongoing here as part of our continuing coverage of the reaction and the consequences of the decision in the United Kingdom to leave the European Union. Well,